With the release of Hazbin Hotel Season 2's first 2 episodes, obviously a lot of talk has been going around with the very hated show coming back, but I feel that gives more merit as to why I should make another part to my series. Usually the 4th entry is usually the worst, but today you may be surprised as this is definitely some of my better work. Obviously you clicked on this video because of the very popular characters on the thumbnail, and there is a very specific thing you might know about all these characters. I have talked about each of them before in one way or another. I thought it would be best to make this video discussing some of the darker truths you may not realize about having opinions and how influencers such as myself may or may not influence you into not having an opinion. I'm sure you've seen stuff on the internet before jokingly talking about how YouTubers give you opinions, and although somewhat funny, it's very sadly true. I am making this video not to harass YouTubers that force their opinions onto yours, but to instead give you advice on how to distance yourself from what your favorite YouTubers say and what your own personal preference is. To do this, I will be making myself the prime example for everything here because although I stand by everything I say in almost all my videos, that's because it's my opinion and I am sharing it with you. So today, let's talk about why video essays can ruin opinions. Make sure to like, comment, hype, and subscribe because I'm trying to reach 40k subscribers within the next 2 months. Also, join my Discord server, link in the description. You may be wondering why I want to out myself, and my answer is because I really have nothing to hide. And I have never intended to throw stuff under the bus for clicks because I do care about the integrity of film. So let's go back to my earliest example of this with Kung Fu Panda 4. I am not backing down on my thoughts on this movie as I do think it is truly one of the worst sequels ever made. But I have matured over my years on YouTube, and although I still like to over-exaggerate my hate towards some things in my videos, I try to do it in a comedic sense and way over the top than how I actually view the film. The thing is though, is there is a difference between going over the top for a joke and over the top for what you actually think. My one big example from my Kung Fu Panda 4 videos is my hatred towards a real-life man. That being Mike Mitchell. I would have so many nickels if I counted up how many times I've talked about this guy. I don't respect his craft, but I started to advance past I hate your movies to I hate you, even though I have no clue who this guy really is. I do admit that is one of my faults when it comes to those videos. I stand by his work sucks, but I learned a couple months ago that it's gotta be really stressful for someone like him, and to get hate over a sequel he tried to make good. The absence of sympathy towards the actual guy was as absent as the Furious 5 were in that movie, and I apologize for that, but my apology only goes so far. Just because I feel bad for disliking this guy as much as I did have reason behind it, and that's because I don't like his filmography and won't hold back from disliking what he makes in the future if it's bad. Because I get to have an opinion on his movies, but I don't really get to have an opinion on him as a person because I have never done research on him, specifically outside of what he makes in his movies. I feel the best way I can relate this to more people out there is with the hate of Rian Johnson got after making The Last Jedi. Sure, you can feel whatever you want about that movie, but harassing the director isn't going to get you anywhere when he has proven that The Last Jedi was a fluke in his career, as he still has the greatest episode of television according to IMDb and a thriving whodunit trilogy under his belt. My other big problem with these videos is that I glorified hating on someone just because I disagreed with him, and as you should know from my previous 3 videos on this matter, this gets us absolutely nowhere as a society and needs to be addressed more often like how I'm doing things right now. Speaking of stuff happening right now, you most definitely saw Kane and Alastor in the thumbnail, and whether or not the title captured your attention, those 2 very popular characters probably convinced you to click on this video. I'm not saying there is a problem with you doing that as it is my intent, but this leads us into the next segment. Although I put Hazbin Hotel and the amazing Digital Circus in each video and sing their praises, I do not think either of these shows are perfect. A big part of my opinion series is talking about how I defend Hazbin Hotel. Although it doesn't have its own specific video, that's because I don't know how confident I'd be with making a how to write with any of the character arcs in the series because they're really not that strong. And if I were to make a how to write, it would probably be quite negative at times. Season 2 so far is starting to make me look differently at some of these characters, and most definitely the V's, specifically Vox. Now with the amazing Digital Circus, it's a bit different. I do have multiple videos on the subject, and all of these are overwhelmingly positive, and just because it's very positive doesn't mean I have a couple nitpicks that I keep screened off because they don't match with what I'm saying in the videos I make. Specifically, I don't think the Guns episode is as good as everyone thinks it is. I actually was pretty mixed in my opinions coming out of it for the first time because although Pomni and Jax's confrontation at the end is easily my favorite part of the show, I did have a lot of issues with how much filler was in the episode. The first 5 minutes of it are practically meaningless when Kane decides decides to just let them all have guns. It does mean something for Kane's mental state that he just breaks so easily, but it could have been done in much less time. I also think that this episode has way too much focus on some of the other characters when the A-plot of the story is just so strong that it makes the B-plot, to me at least, drag in comparison. I could talk more about the rest of the episodes, but I do want to emphasize that I do love this show. The Guns episode has grown on me since, but it's definitely not my favorite episode. But just because it's not my favorite doesn't mean I hate it or dislike it. I still think it's a good episode at the end of the day. Now, to tie all of this talk into how this relates to this video, it's because when making video essays like these, sometimes I do hold off from saying stuff because I don't have enough time to get the main point of my video across and also interject my personal opinions into it. That doesn't mean I don't say what I think in some of these videos. But it does mean that some people in my comment section actually think I'm meat writing these shows because they think I'm such a devout follower and don't have the media literacy to understand that stuff I like has flaws, which I will say is untrue. And overall, I feel it ruins people's perception of my video essays and gives them reason to think themselves as more intellectual when, of course, your hot takes don't make you smarter than people who are with the majority. Finally, I wanted to talk about a video I wish I could remake and actually elaborate on what I said. Coming in as my 6th most popular video with almost 150,000 views, it's my thoughts on IGN's review of Invincible Season 3's finale. I think that this video is actually quite good as an expression of my own personal opinion. But damn, I dropped the ball hard on talking about IGN's actual review. They gave this episode a 4 out of 10, and I was so distraught from the media illiteracy rating off this review that I made the video just because. I do have a couple thoughts on how I portray the author of this review and how I more or less condone hating on this person, but I think what actually is my biggest gripe that I wanted to make an example of is that I should have gone into depth with how fundamentally brain dead this review was. I really do believe the author of this review was actually purposely trying to find something bad in the episode so that the review would get more clicks, and I am disgusted by that if that's true, which I still believe after rereading this review compared to his review on Snow White's remake, but I can't prove it yet, so do not send hate to this reviewer. My video proved that you don't need to have a reason or explanation for your opinion to be perceived as the only right one. A lot of other YouTubers were making fun of this review too, but they actually looked into it, whereas I didn't put a single segment into the video about it. I did actually read the review all the way through before making my video on it, but I was stupid enough to not actually discuss what they said in it in order to make my analysis better. The fact this video blew up the way it did still upsets me as an analyst, but as a small YouTuber, I don't mind having a big video under my belt. This video specifically makes me want to strive to be better and actually give reasoning in each of my videos I make. The sad part is that there are YouTubers out there that make a living off of spreading hate and poorly giving their reasoning as to why. Your opinion can be given to you by other YouTubers if you aren't careful, and that's why I made this video. Because although some may entice you and try to persuade you to think the same way as them, never feel pressured to like what you want. If you like Kung Fu Panda 4, good for you because you found something in it I can't see. If you dislike Invincible, that's fine, it's not for everybody. I have learned from my previous videos and I'm using that experience to become a better YouTuber now. And I hope these videos make you more confident to share how you feel about specific things. With that said, thank you everybody for watching. I'm Enchanted. Bye.